You know, it helps if I have everything ready, but I don't. Like, I always tell myself, all right, we're gonna hit record, we're gonna start chit chatting, and then I hit a button. I'm like, wait, what's next? Like, I don't have it like fully set up yet, guys. Like, I'm still like, oh, it's in work in progress. But like, I don't know, like everything you start off right, you always have to. You're gonna have these moments of just like figuring yourself out and figuring out what your project is, and like you get better the more you do it, right? And I think I've mentioned this already. Like, how do I get better at push-ups? We do more push-ups. How do I get better at talking about myself, about podcasts and everything, and just ranting? Well, you keep doing it, you know, and that just the more I do it, the better I get at it, you know. So I mean, everything's check. I mean, we got the recording on the video on OBS. We got recording on the soundboard, so everything's, you know, set. But what I want to focus on this week, guys. And by the way, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Thank you for hanging out. I want to focus on JRPGs versus Western RPGs, and maybe not so much on the versus part, but maybe just some of the differences and like what I've gathered and noticed since, you know, that's been one of my favorite genres just from gaming for sure. It was one of my starting genres for sure. Especially just starting out when I was, you know, playing video games. I loved the Final Fantasy. I love Square Enix, Square, and then it became Square Enix. And I just wanted to like just start off with my history with the company. Excuse me, guys. Sorry. Every time, like, you know, I get started, like all the coffee and the water I drink. And I just finished exercising too, so everything has to like settle. Yeah, definitely. Starting off with, there I go again, working on my arms. Starting off with Squaresoft. It's just so weird for me to call them Square Enix, but I mean, we know why they're called Square Enix, right? You guys remember that Final Fantasy movie they did? Like, their budget was so much into it, and the movie flopped. Like, they were in the red, and they had to get bought out. I think Enix bought them. And what I remember Enix having, I remember them having a game on Nintendo 64 called Mischief Makers. And they had the Clancers, and it was a unique game. It was pretty. I remember enjoying it because it was really colorful and stylish. But that was a long time ago. But I remember saying, Square Enix, they got bought up by that. So, but definitely. So focusing on SquareSoft, I remember back in high school, and guys, stop me if you already heard this story. You're not. But my buddy Carlos, he's like, hey, you ever play Final Fantasy? I'm like, no. Well, this is Final Fantasy 7. You want to check it out? Sure. And I just saw it, and I was like, wait, this game's 3 discs long. And mind you, guys, back in the day, you know, it was like 1997 when the game came out. So it might have been around 1997, 1998 when I actually got to play it. And, you know, you had to have your memory card, you know, you could save. And he saved a lot of all the FMV parts, the full motion videos, or the SMV or the CG parts. And I just remember just showing me the game and everything you could do with the whole material system and the characters. And yeah, they look kind of blocky and squarish when you're, you know, in the overworld. But when you got into the combat, you know, they got pretty much, you know, they look more appropriate, you know, on human sizes and the, you know, the body shapes and everything. But I remember just really enjoying that game. I was like, man, Final Fantasy 7 is so legit. I enjoyed it very much, and I got into it, and I got my own copy, and I still have it to this day. I still have my physical copy of the game. It was like the greatest hits one, and I still have the instruction booklet. And when was it? Maybe a couple of years ago, I started noticing. No, more than a couple of years ago. It was several years ago. But I just noticing, yeah, games ain't doing. I think it was the 360 days. Like, they're not doing freaking booklets anymore. And I remember having that, the one for Final Fantasy 7, and just reading it back and forth and looking at notes and stuff. Also, just like on a quick tangent, doing the Metal Gear Solid on the PS1, you had to look at the back of the CD box to get Meryl's codex information, and I thought that was so clever. Kojima was like, he's something. He still is something, you know. But like, even back then, you're like, man, this is so cool. And especially like, you know, Psycho Mantis reading the memory card, and when you had to fight him, you had to put the controller port on this player 2 side. Like, that was so legit. And I remember me and my buddies just always talking about that. And maybe that's not so much on the JRPG side, but that's definitely on the Japanese side, because I can't say that I recall anything from the Western developers that had anything like that. And back then, in the late 90s, early 2000s, PS1 days introducing into the PS2 days, and even before that, the SNES days. Like, I don't remember, at least as young Rick, I cannot recall like strong Western developers back then. I knew I enjoyed Konami. I know I enjoyed Squaresoft. I know I enjoyed Capcom. I know I enjoyed I know there's more. I just can't think of them off the top of my head. But I remember those being some of the very like positive ones that just left a really long lasting impression on me. So I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I just really enjoyed it. I was always more of a JRPG fan than I am Western, and it wasn't until damn it, dude, I'm going on tangent off a tangent, but that's fine, that's okay. But I remember it wasn't until like the 360 era, that's when I got like introduced into Western RPGs, and the 360 by then was, I don't know if I already told you guys, but when I was younger, my parents purchased for me and my brother a Nintendo. So we had the Nintendo, the NES. We had that for a good while, and then we got the Super Nintendo. From Super Nintendo, it went to, I want to say, the Nintendo 64, and then from Nintendo 64, it went to PlayStation 2, 360, I think, and that was about it. Because me and my brother, we had allowances, and we would save up, or through birthday gifts or Christmas gifts, and we would get this, different consoles. And we're very fortunate that and thank mom and dad for that. It's very awesome because they really were able to provide. And we were privileged because a lot of kids didn't have access to that. So thank you, mom and dad. But definitely, the PlayStation 2 was the last one that I think they got that for us, and I don't remember when it was, but I remember 360 was, I think that was the very first console I purchased, and I was young. I was just I had a part-time job, maybe a full-time job, but it was like a shit job. No, I didn't care about it. You guys remember that? Remember when you're like you're 17, 18, you're getting that first job, like, that's cool, great, awesome, and then you're like, I don't care, I'm here to get paid. So I remember saving up, getting a TV, and using it was using HDMI. I was like, what? It doesn't have to have the little red, yellow, with the red, yellow, white connector in the back, though, with RGB or RCA or whatever connectors in the back. But it's like, use HDMI. What is it? 720, 1080. So I remember having the 360, and I remember an old friend of mine was telling me about Mass Effect a long time ago, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's cool. I mean, awesome. And then and then also my other friend Travis, he told me about it. Yeah, Mass Effect, dude, you need to try that out. I was like, oh, I remember hearing about it. But Travis is a really good friend of mine, and when he recommends something, I was like, okay, you know what, I'll give it a shot. So I remember playing Mass Effect 1. I was like, man, this game is unique. I like it. It's really fun. I really like the whole, using your partner's abilities, and you gotta find the synergy, and you gotta like you can use Liara to do singularity pull, so you just put them all together and you just start blasting them. And of course you had different classes too. And on Mass Effect, I chose to play as I think I tried them all, and I settled on the infiltrator class. I like having the long range sniper rifle going into cloak, and then when you your next shot while cloaked will do like 100% more damage, and then you get more talents where it'll be like headshots or massive like crits do like reduce cooldown on your cloak, so you could like cloak right back up and stuff. So I remember building like that, and I would use my party members as kind of like just tankers, and just to hold them off or distract them and keep them off of me. But I remember playing Mass Effect 1, and I was like, man, this is really good. And I think I was able to go right into Mass Effect 2 because I didn't play the first ME when it came out. So it was already out for a while. And then going straight into ME2, Mass Effect 2, and then it saving your progress, like remembering your progress, the decisions you made. I was like, okay, I remember thinking, man, this is pretty cool. I like that a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, having all this other stuff, like, when I was saying Metal Gear Solid, having Psycho Manus read your memory card, I was like, that's pretty cool. But I mean, the fact that you save your progress and it goes to the next game and it remembers it and it makes, like, callbacks and everything, I was like, wow, that was really cool. And I remember, Mass Effect 2, that one really, really hit home. And I enjoyed it so much. It became one of my, like, at that time, like, favorites, and it still has a very fond spot, in my heart, because I enjoy that game very much. And I actually just recently, over the 3-day weekend, me and the wifey, we went to Best Buy. We're actually looking at the ads online, and they had Mass Effect 3 or Mass Effect Legendary Edition on sale. So I was like, man, let's get out the house. Let's go spend some, let's go buy something, because we've been wanting. Me and the wifey, we're both fans of Mass Effect. And I know the Legendary Edition came out a long time ago, and I was always kind of hesitant, because I was hesitant on two reasons, guys. One is, and tell me if you guys can relate with me on this, but you guys ever go back and play, and I'm talking to the older gamers, if you ever go back to one of the old games that you enjoyed way back then, and then you play it and you're like, oh, I don't remember this being this fun, or being like, I mean, it's not as fun as I thought it used to be, or like I always say, and I don't know if anybody else has ever said this before, but I say that nostalgia is a flavor you can't find. You remember it being good, but then you actually try to get a hold of it, and then you realize, no, it's no. Yeah, I kind of learned that lesson when I got the SNES Mini for a gift, and I was able to play the other games. I'm just like, yeah, it's fun to go back and play them, but then you realize, oh, they're lacking all the features that the modern day games have. And I admit, guys, that's kind of a crutch sometimes, because recently I've been going back to playing Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne on the Switch. And man, I noticed that navigating through the menus, it's not fun. It's not fun. It's not convenient. It's a lot of friction, a lot of clicking, and a lot of moving. Because recently I played Shin Megami Tensei 5 that came out on the Switch early November of 2021, and that game I hands down had a blast. Shin Megami Tensei 5 was my first entry into that mainline series. Okay, I did play Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal, so that's kind of tied in somewhere in the whole SMT universe, but I know they're not like the mainline ones. They're tied in, right? And you guys can like argue with me about that if you want. But Shin Megami Tensei 5 was the first one I got into, and I really enjoyed it. And even the wifey was like, what's so fun about that game? You can't put it down. I was like, I don't know. Something about going out there, collecting the demons, and then fusing them and getting these abilities, and then having set up teams for different situations and getting them in and out, and then, finding new ones and then collecting them and put them in your party. Like, I don't know. That game it really clicked for me. And I've since then, after completing it, I've gone around and seen like other people's like opinions. Well, I've seen this one person's opinion, and he really kind of like wasn't happy with it. And of course, this person, and I wish I remember who he was. It was on YouTube, but he has experience playing, I guess, the rest of the Shin Megami Tensei games. So he said 5 compared to the other ones just wasn't that good. But to me, in playing it, I really enjoyed it. I had a blast. So it's a shame that when I go to play Shin Megami Tensei 3, and the fact that it's just so antiquated by the way it's done, I was like, oh man, I feel kind of bad, because like I know this is a good game, but you know what? It's not like I'm writing it off completely. Like there's always, sometimes you have to like step back from a game and be like, okay, it's a break. It's not working. It's not clicking right now, and then you'll come back and they're like, okay, this might work. That's how it was with Fire Emblem 3 Houses. When it first came out, I was like, oh, SRPGs. Oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. But then, like, I sat down with it again, like, maybe like a year later. Excuse me, guys. And I was like, man, this is actually this is fun. Now that I'm getting the hang of the mechanics and seeing how everything works, I'm like, okay, I'm having a blast. So, and it turned out just, I mean, I just burned right through that game. I started off with Black Eagles, and I went with the Knights of Cerros. If you guys know what I'm talking about, there's a certain point where you have to choose. And I'm recently going back at it again, and this time I'm sticking with Edelgard. So I'm playing that same house, but that house has a fork in the road. So now I'm going the other way. And I'm glad I'm going back, because previously, after I finished it, I was going to go back into the Blue Lions, but I was like, wait, Rick, you have a perfectly good file halfway through. Just go in there and get caught up and do the other side. But anyways, going back to Western RPGs, yeah, Mass Effect 2, in my opinion, out of the trilogy and out of just about all the Western RPGs, that one's one of my favorite ones. For sure in the trilogy, it is hands down is the best. I think it's a good balance of both 1 and 2, and it streamlines a lot of the abilities and talent trees and everything, so you could just really get it. Because the first one just felt like, oh, why there's so many points I have to put into. Like in this one, you know, it's like up to 4 points, you know, a couple of abilities, and you know, and the abilities they feel useful. I really don't like it when I play a game and then like you have all these abilities and you never like, you can't either reach them, or when you do get them, you're like, oh, okay, cool, awesome, and they just kind of sit there because there's just so many. That's how I felt with when I was playing Star Wars Fallen Order. It's like the customization part of getting different ponchos, okay, different color skins for BD, and okay, colors for your lightsaber or customizing, like that was fine, but like I really don't care. I mean, minus the color of the lightsaber itself, like the handle, the you know, the handle, the grip, the, you know, the ring, the O-ring, and the neck of it, like you customize, and like, no, I'm really not gonna see that. The only thing I'm going to see is the color of the lightsaber, you know. And of course, you guys, if you guys know me, I like always putting it like in either yellow or red. Those tend to be my color schemes for the most part, you know. Sometimes it varies. But so, and that game just had so many abilities, and there were a lot of them were cool, but you like in the heat of battle, you kind of just stuck with what works, you know, like a perfect dodge or a perfect parry that opens up your attack window and stuff like that, or something that when you roll or dodge, you get behind them, you know. Like I just stuck with what worked, like the flashy stuff. I'm like, you know, maybe I'll use the get off me move or the pull, but like it just felt like I just had so many abilities. Like after a while, I was like, okay, I don't know which one should I use now. Like I just stuck with like the most useful ones, and that's about it. So yeah, Mass Effect 2, and it just felt like it just streamlined a lot of that. You just, you know, with a couple abilities that you use, and you put them on your hotbar and use them. Mass Effect 3, I remember when that one came out, you know, I enjoyed it also because I was really invested in the story, which I really enjoyed with the Reapers and everything was going on, and the way the first one played out, like the way the second one played out, and then 3 was just more of that, but on a grander scale. And guys, I'm hoping by now you've probably like exposed yourself to the game or played it. But you know, in part 2, Mass Effect 2, it was all about finding allies, so you can like finding allies and recruiting allies, so you can, you know, fight against the greater evil. In the third one, it was kind of like that, but like I said, on a larger scale. You're recruiting like whole civilizations and planets to help you, you know, because this is going to be the final battle for the civilization in the Milky Way. So, you know, you're kind of like going around recruiting planets and stuff like that. And like I said, it was fun. It was good. I know a lot of people just were very decisive and polarized because of the ending. Me personally, yeah, they were kind of all the same, minus like a different, you know, red, green, or blue, like, you know, setting. They all got like this color scheme at the very end, you know. You're either hybrid, or you're all machines, or you're all organics and stuff like that. And look, when they have such a massive story, you know, wrapping it all up, and if they miss out some things and people get upset, it's like how good was the gameplay? Yeah. The story they might have missed some things on part, but it's like, are you gonna like knock the game because you missed out on some parts? Like, if you really are invested in the story, like go read a novel. Like, I mean, what can I tell you? I don't know the argument when people are like, oh, I want a great story with this game. I'm like, well, read a book. Those are chock full of great stories. I'm more of the gameplay aspect. How fun was it? I like the gaming part of video games, not so much the story. Now, granted, I'm not saying that if a game has a story or emphasizes on a story that it's not a game. No, it's still a game. Whatever you want to play, you want to play. It's fine, you know. Because I mean, I could really go in depth about games like Night in the Woods, or the What Remains of Edith Finch, or Oxenfree, or the Telltale games. Like, in my opinion, those are interactive stories. They're not video games. Okay, you don't lose any progression. Nothing gets lost. You just, oh, you made a wrong choice. Let's start right back up. Look, I'm not here to like downplay or downpunch or talk about. That's just my opinion. I don't feel those are games. They're just stories you just interact with, and that's fine. And if you enjoy them, hey man, enjoy them. I have no problem with it. I like video games as much as you do, and there's different types for everybody. So yeah, at the end of Mass Effect 3, when they wrap up the story and like miss out on some things, it's like, yeah, it's kind of a bummer. I kind of want to know what happened here, and here. But, you know, they got to wrap it up somehow, right? I mean, unless you want more spin-offs. And that's another thing, too. Like, who's to say BioWare just can't make up another game, you know, with another set of characters during that time or a different time. And, you know, it doesn't have to revolve around Shepard and the Normandy. There's just so many things it could build on. So, I mean, honestly, if they do that, if they go with that route, why not? I mean, it just depends how much they want to, how much there's the demand for that. And there's more on Mass Effect that could go on, but I still want to stay on the Western RPG part. Another one that I really enjoyed a lot, like a lot, was Skyrim. And I'm pretty sure that you guys, whoever's listening, has probably been exposed to Skyrim at some point, because, I mean, we've had it on 360, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, PC, VR, Switch. I mean, what else? I mean, it's probably on your smart fridge or something, you know? I mean, you've probably played that game, heard of that game. So, I mean, I'm at this point, I wouldn't be surprised even if you're just a lukewarm, you know, gamer, you've probably have experienced Skyrim in some way, fashion, or form. And that game's a really good game. It really is. I enjoyed it. I didn't play all the DLC, nor did I enjoy all the DLC, but some I did enjoy. I like what's the one where you're playing like a vampire hunter, the Dawn Guard or something like that? And the one I didn't care for is like Hearthstone or Hearth. Like you can adopt a kid, and now you can decorate your house. Okay, cool. And then there was like the other ones, like you become like a dragon rider and do some other things, explore some different areas. But that game right there, I really enjoyed it. There was so much to do. It was one of the first games that I remember playing and being like, hey, there's a mountain way over there. I'm gonna go climb it. And you could. You know? Or, hey, what's this cave? I don't know, but here's another quest line. Start something. And then, I mean, yeah, like the main story wasn't the longest, but all of the side content and just exploring, like the exploration on that game just felt really, really good. I mean, and it was really, and it rewarded you too. You know, if you find something off somewhere in a cave and you go in there, and then next thing you come out, you're on top of a freaking dragon shrine and you learn a new shout, or you find a Crosa mask or something, or what's it called, the Crosa mask? I think I had the one they're like these brass masks with a hood. I think the one I used was Crosa. It was like increase your stealth damage and stuff. Yeah, like everybody, I played a stealth ranger, so I just stayed super quiet and I put all my points in secret. Like when you snipe them with the bow, do more damage. But I really enjoy that one a lot, and I play the DLC, and I've kind of been waiting for Bethesda to release something in that aspect, in the fantasy part, because when I played Fallout 4, is that the one? What's the latest one, guys, that they released? Was Fallout 76, but I didn't play that one. I didn't play that one. I remember the wifey was super hype about it, and she got her hands on it, played it, and she was so let down. And then, I mean, I know that game is like in a lot better spot than it is now, than it was. But I remember that game coming out, I was like, okay, that's not for me. Then the other Fallout ones, like, they were okay. I enjoyed it. I never played Vegas. I just played out Fallout 4. And it was, like I said, it was okay. It had all the Bethesda stuff, but I was like, I don't know. It's not Skyrim. When it came to the Bethesda game, I like the fantasy aspect more than the radiation steampunk slash, that genre. I don't know. It's okay. I didn't care for it. I like the fantasy one. So when I hear like Bethesda is working, I guess it's still Bethesda. They're just under Xbox now. So I'm kind of hoping the next Oblivion or whatever title, I just hope it's fun and I hope it's good. I hope it just launches a lot better than some of their previous stuff, because I hear their latest stuff just wasn't all that great. But yeah, Skyrim is another one that I enjoyed a lot on the 360, and I remember getting it again on the PlayStation 4, but I didn't play it as much on the PS4 than I did the 360. Mind you guys, back then when I had a 360, I had a part-time slash like barely full-time job. I was still living at my parents' house, so I had a lot of time to play those games and just sink in. So and I really enjoyed it. But like I said, if another Oblivion game, Elden Ring game, Elden Ring's different. Another Oblivion game comes out, or Morrowind game. I forget what the people call them. Like, I don't know. Like, I definitely would play it, but it'll be hard for me to sink in time like I did when I was younger, because that's how it is with Elden Ring right now. Like, Elden Ring, it's such a wonderful game, and we'll save that for another podcast. Yeah, we'll save that for another podcast, because that game right there, it actually deserves all its time. It probably deserves a whole podcast, because I just like it. I love it so much, and From Software for that matter. But yeah, it's hard for me, like in this day and age, me being being my career, being a husband, having to take care of of myself, of doing my responsibilities, of working, exercising, eating right, balancing everything out. Like, to play a game that demands so much time, it'll be very difficult. That's why, like, it's easy for me to play games I could pick up and drop, like fighting games. I could do an evening where I could do a couple of rounds and then I'll be done with it. Or, some roguelikes like Dead Cells. That's one of my favorite ones. Or, just regular RPGs, because the RPGs now, it's easy to break them down like in chapters and just find a save point and put it down. But back then in those games, yeah, you could save whenever, but oh man, how many times have you guys, and I'm sure I'm not the only one guilty of this, of, okay, just one more dungeon, let me just go see what's going on. All right, I leveled up, I got some new talents, let's go test them out. And then you go in there, you start finding another cave or another dungeon to go test out your new talents or new abilities. And next thing you know, you're stuck in there, you're going deeper and deeper, and then you find new items. Like, I remember that. It was so much fun. So definitely when it comes to the whole Western part RPGs, like, to me, that was the golden era, the sweet spot when it came to that genre, the Western RPGs. The Mass Effect series, Dragon Age, I never got into them. I know there were BioWare. I remember playing Dragon Age 2, I think, and I just felt like, I'm just doing the same stages back and forth. I remember the first one or something. They just got repaired. I'm like, this isn't fun. I'm sorry, it's just not fun for me. I did not care for them. So I just, every time I hear Dragon Age or news or something like that, I'm just like, okay, cool, I'll watch it. For me, it's just Mass Effect. That's what I care for when it comes to BioWare. I know they did the KOTOR games, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. And I remember hearing something about their remaking one, Knights of the Old Republic, which, sure, I'll give it a shot. I don't mind. I've heard, again, my buddy Travis told me so many good things about that game also, that I'll give it a shot. I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I like Star Wars, but I'm not like I'll go to the movies. Oh, okay. I'll go to, not theaters, but I'll go to what I know on the movies, because I watched the movie several times each. Some of the movies, not the streaming series that's on Disney Plus. I'll watch some of those. But when you start going to the animated stuff, novels, comic books, like, no, I don't have that much time to watch all that stuff. Like, I like Star Wars, and I'll chit chat with you about stuff, but that's about it. I'll just stick to the streaming series and the movies, and then beyond that, it's like, you're gonna have to fill me in. Yeah, so if they release a KOTOR from BioWare, I'll give it a shot because I never played the OG version. And I noticed there's like a big difference from Western RPGs and JRPGs, and I'm sure you guys know too. Especially like if you're my age, 38, pushing 40. I don't look it, right? Because like I said, one of my first JRPGs I remember was Final Fantasy VII, and then 8, and then 9, and then 10, and 10. Guys, tell me what y'all think, but I felt 10. That was when things started changing with Square Enix. And don't get me wrong, I remember playing, Xenogears. I remember playing Vagrant Story. And those aren't, especially Vagrant Story. That's not really, it's from a JRPG company, but it had its own unique style. I think that one was like, that one wasn't talked about. I almost want to say it's underrated, but I don't know, man. I don't know. It did have its flaws, and I remember playing it back in a time where I didn't have the internet wasn't like as big as it is now, for sure. So I wasn't able to really go online and talk to other people about it. It was just my local circle of friends who played it, and that's like, again, not everyone of my friends growing up had access to gaming consoles, so it was hard to talk to anybody that played Vagrant Story. I mean, the major stuff, yeah, the Metal Gears, your Final Fantasies, like all the big games, you could like talk to your friends about because everybody most likely played it. But once you start getting into the weeds, like Vagrant Story, like people were like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Xenogears?" Some people knew about Xenogears, not too many. So I remember it being a unique game for sure. I don't want to say it's bad. I want to say it's great. But I remember having it stood out. You play as what I think his name was Ashley Riot, and it was just a unique, very very on its own. And if you guys have any experiences with it, please let me know, because I never really had a chance to like talk to anybody about it really. And the thing is, I'm so far removed from the game and gameplay that it's hard for me. I remember you had different weapons, and you had to allocate different gems. I think it's like salamander. What else? Like different elements. It's like, again, guys, I'm just going off of memory, and my memory on that is super fuzzy, super foggy. But I remember like besides those games, the Vagrant Story and the Xenogears, focusing on just the Final Fantasies, once they got to like 10, and you see it's Square Enix, and that was like the first PS2 Final Fantasy mainline. Oh, and Kingdom Hearts, that never drew me in. I know it's huge, massive, but it just, for some weird reason, I remember playing the demo for Kingdom Hearts 1. It didn't draw me in at all. I hear great things about Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 3 recently got released, back in early 2019, early 2020 maybe? I forgot, guys. Sue me. But I know and then they made several handheld versions of the game, or handheld. Okay, look, there's like 16 games for sequels. That's what I know. Okay, so sorry if I'm not into it. Sorry, not sorry. But I remember, just sticking to the Final Fantasy mainline, is by the time they got to 10, like, it was changing. And this is like, the writing was on the wall before I knew it was on the wall. It's like something's going on. And I want to say maybe it was because of the merger with Square Enix, or maybe it was because of, Microsoft now getting into the play field with their Xbox, so bringing in like a Western audience, because before then it was what you had, Nintendo and Sony. That's it. Those were the big boys. It wasn't until Xbox, and then Xbox is now part of that, the three of the big boys. Mind you, it doesn't sell great in Japan, but it's there, and it has brought up a Western audience up for sure. So I remember just Final Fantasy X, just like, man, okay, this is different. We're not exploring the world anymore. I mean, we were going to different points, and then we're dropping down, and it wasn't like super open world. It was kind of like what I like to call like these open lanes. Have you guys like played like God of War 2018? Like, I wouldn't call that game open world. I mean, you have to get to point A and point B, and of course along the way, like I said, you have these wide lanes where you can like kind of like explore and go to other things, but it's always just pointing you to the same like that one direction where you have to go. You know, it's not like Breath of the Wild, where that is an actual open world, or an Elden Ring, or like a Skyrim, where do you want to go? Just okay, go and done. You know, I wouldn't call God of War open world. I mean, there's stuff to do, but that genre itself, and even then, that genre you could break it down to something else. With the just how do you say it? The ubiquitous. I'm sorry for my words, guys, but I mean, with the whole, what Ubisoft has, all they just kind of just ever since like Assassin's Creed Origins, they've just been pumping out all these open world games, along with all the Far Cry. It's just after I know Sony does it too with Ghost of Tsushima and Horizon Zero. And look, guys, I'm not downplaying these games. I'm just saying, when I see them, I really like. I know, and this argument goes both ways, because I'm so very much about fighting games, and if someone who doesn't know fighting games just looks at them, if I name Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Unis, Guilty Gear, oh god damn it, why am I blanking on my fighting games? Marvel, Jesus Christ, Rick, Melty Blood, just all the fighting games, Tekken. If you tell somebody like, oh yeah, they all have unique, they all have the unique style, mechanics, and nuances. Someone who doesn't know be like, oh nah, you're just beating each other up, mashing buttons. Nah, it's the same thing. You see, that's how I feel when I see open world games. Like, yeah, there is some nuances. The story might differ per character, but they're always. And my friend Johnny really pointed this out to me, and it clicked, and it hit hard with me, because he says, let me guess, it's open world with some talent trees along the way, maybe a little dialogue wheel, some consequences that might come back to haunt you. You have to collect some things along the way, and I was like, Jesus Christ, that's like every open world game there is now. If you think about it, they might have, interact with this so you could pick it up, or here's the objective on the screen and go here, and there's gonna be like a little legend key map or a direction wheel on top to tell you where to go, maybe a mini map on the bottom. And I was like, oh my god, they are, So like when by the time like Ghost of Tsushima came out, I mean, I got to like, I want to say I finished Act 1. I was like, yeah, I think I'm done with this game. I'm gonna go around, go to village to village. I'm gonna only Jin can go, help the villagers. Maybe find a little secret item. Same with like when I'm playing Horizon Zero, I'm playing as Aloy, and only she can save the person's brother from the bandits, and has to go collect this. And okay, and like I said, that's just not for me. If you guys enjoy it, go for it. But that's what I started noticing when it came to like the Square Enix's game. Like, they just started becoming these homogenized. They almost felt like they're starting to become the same. And you could tell, because after Final Fantasy X, 11 was their MMO. 12, you started. What was 12? That's the one with. I think that's with Vaughn. Yeah, it was with Vaughn. Where you still, that one you still had some open worldness part to it. And you had the Gambit system. And then you got into 13, and by then I felt like, and mind you guys, it's been a while since I played that one, but it felt like they're going back into the whole, like what I mentioned earlier about God of War, like these open wide lanes where you get here to there, and along the way you'll find a treasure, maybe a little hidden area, but the game's always kind of like funneling you. It's always kind of like just corralling you to go this direction in the game, So after and I recall maybe 13, after you are near the end game, I think it opens up where you kind of explore some areas. I believe. I don't quote me, guys. I ain't say shit, but I noticed that's what happened. So it's 13 that they made like several sequels. 13 2, 13 3, Lightning's Revenge or something like that. I don't know. I didn't play them. I'm sorry, guys. I just by then I was kind of like checking out Final Fantasy 14, the MMO. We'll save that. We'll save the MMO conversation for another time. But I did used to play WoW back in the day. Burning Wrath and Burning Crusade, and then I left. What was after Crusade? Cataclysm. Yeah, I think I left a little bit after Cataclysm. I think when they were introducing like Miss Appendera or something like that. So I was in WoW for a while. So like the MMO aspect, it's just like no, I know. I remember there were some good times with MMOs and some really dark times with MMOs. It's just oh my god, just having to play with so many people, so many egos. Like after a while, and I'm guilty of it, guys. So like Final Fantasy 14, no, I'm not into it. 15, with Noctis and the boys, Prompto, Ignis, Gladius. Like, okay, open world, but it was very action. Like the JRPG, the turn-based part was gone. At least from what I can remember. It's been a while since I played it, guys. But it's like it was just a lot of action, and mind you, it was really pretty. It was really cool. It was fun. It was different. It was unique. But you can tell that from Final Fantasy X, there was definitely a change. And I'm not saying change is a bad thing. I agree. Things have to change. It's okay for things to change, but when you start becoming something you weren't and you lose the fan base, and maybe the fan base is too big of a word because I'm not the fan base. I am a fan. I'm part of their base, but I don't represent everybody, But me personally as a fan, like I just started losing interest. And again, that's just me getting older also, not having time, not able to keep up with all the games. So I just feel like after a while, just isn't becoming for me anymore. But with that said, when they went back to Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I remember the 2019 E3, oh my God, when they had some more information on what's going on, I was so excited. And mind you guys, I want to just preface this by saying that Final Fantasy VII is like hands down my Final Fantasy, like my favorite one. It really is. It's just that's always going to be my favorite. And mind you, I'm not the biggest fan. I watched Advent Children once. I never played any of the handhelds. I played like Dirge of Cerberus. Google that one, guys. What else? But like I'd never went out to like seek more information than I did. Like whatever I knew from watching just that movie one time or twice maybe, and playing the game several times over, like that's all I know, and I'm fine with. I don't have to know everything and anything and everything about the game. Like what I know of the game, I know that I love, and I know I enjoyed it. So the OG Final Fantasy VII always has like a special place in my heart because like I go back to it and play it every couple of years. And I want to say, guys, also, if you have not played that one, Final Fantasy VII, the OG, play it, please. Like, do yourself a favor. And I think that's one of those games that I don't think you have to play it, but you should play it just so you can know where the series came from, where it started and how it's going. And I think that's a really good basis, a really good foundation of what games were, how they were back in the day, about having to find save points, of having to of actually being able to lose things and never getting them back, or not knowing, maybe just finding some like how to navigate the game through subtle nuances in the game itself to tell you where to go, like a certain text that someone would say, or a certain hint, or the placement of a certain item. That's what was really good about those games. Like the hand holding was very minimal. You kind of have to know where to look up, or pray to God or Jesus or wherever you pray to, that you knew someone that had an inkling, that that had an inkling of an idea of where to go next. Because sometimes you're like, all right, so where do I go now? Oh, well, you're at Walmart. Okay, yes, go talk to Don Cornelio, and then you have to do this and this and this and this. So Final Fantasy 7, like I said, if you guys get a chance to play it, I would say play the Switch port or the PlayStation 4 port. Those are really good ones. I've played both of those, and what's really good about them is that you have the option of making it 3 times speed. So sometimes when you're going up the long ladder, you could just hit the left stick and just you go right through it. You know, you just fly right by it. You could shut off encounters, or you could just give yourself max HP MP, so in case you're like in a pinch or a bind. And like I'm not saying you could use those just to like, excuse me, cheese your way through the game. Of course you can, but I would say those options just for like, you know, oh shit, I gotta wrap it up soon. I gotta get to a save point. Let me just shut off encounters and find a save point. Or crap, I'm about to die and I haven't saved in forever. Let me just, you know, give myself some HP boost or something like that. So I mean, that's the way you should play it. In my opinion, give that game a shot, guys. Honestly, especially if you just played Final Fantasy VII Remaster without ever playing the OG one, like, because I do not buy the argument of people saying, oh, it's just Final Fantasy VII Remake is just Midgar. It's just that, you know, it's just the intro of the game of the OG version. Like, have you played the OG version? No? Well then, what do you know what you're missing? You don't. Give the game a shot. Honestly, I mean, it's really good. And again, I'm biased, so take it with a grain of salt. Excuse me, guys, I had to get out of the water. But yeah, going back to Final Fantasy VII Remake, I have been going back to playing that game, and is it perfect? No. Is it good? Yeah. And it's almost like the latest Final Fantasy games that came out, where you kind of want to like mash buttons, or the latest Square Enix games, you kind of want to mash buttons and just to get to things. On this one, you can't. It's still a turn-based JRPG. You still have to, you know, think about the situation and plan things out, and, you know, get your material lined up. And that's what I like about that game, though, is that you can have your material set up for a certain way, but you have to change it because it's not always going to work. And I heard some people say, man, I don't like the fact that I have to change it just for trash mobs. I'm like, you know, that kind of makes sense. Just for, like, you know, the trash enemies, you have to change. Like, but at the same time, it keeps you from getting, like, it helps you from getting complacent in the game. It changes it up. Because how many times, and I think we might all be guilty of this, where you get this new ability that's just super good and you just kind of like keep it or never change it. Like, oh, I find this one sword, and I'm just going to keep it, and that's it because it's really good. Maybe I'll upgrade it once I get something like way better. But, you know, in this game, you have to change it up, because if not, eventually you're going to just get pounded. And especially when you play in a hard mode. And after me being removed from the game, and because I played it last year after the Intrigrad, the Yuffie DLC came out, and I started playing it on hard. And I got to like Hell House, Wall Market, and I stopped playing. And then just recently I started playing it again. I was like, you know what? I do not want to hate myself. So I'm going to play this game on normal difficulty, and then just play it as is. And just, you know, once I go through it, then come back. Now, the story of that, the Final Fantasy remake compared to the OG, is it different? Yes, 100% different. Because I think it's like Tetsuya Nomura, the guy who did the Kingdom Hearts. I think he's at the helm now for the new Final Fantasy remake. So I don't know how his storytelling works from the Kingdom Hearts series, but it looks like he's this is just speculation on my part, but it looks like he's incorporating some of that into Final Fantasy, because it's you know, there's some differences going on. And like I said, I'm fine with some changes. I didn't want it to be the same old story, but they are making some differences, some changes. And I'm not saying that I'm totally against with it, but I'm not going to say I'm totally on board for it also. And another thing also, guys, is like, you have to remember, this is the first game of maybe 3 other games, of maybe 2 other games, you know, of 2 other sequels, of maybe who knows how many more DLCs are going to release. I mean, we saw that Yuffie had her own, you know, DLC. So who's to say they're not going to do that with Sid, and that's how they introduce him? Or maybe a side episode with Red 13, or with Vincent. Who knows? So I don't think it would be fair of me to judge this game for what it is now, I can only say this is how I feel about the game right now. As a whole, of course, we can't do that because it's not all out or released yet. So that's just something we have to wait on. And I'm willing to be patient with this game because, again, Final Fantasy VII is just something that I really enjoy, and I just wish I knew more of. I know a lot of times you guys might hear me say where like I wish a developer would just go radio silent and don't tell us anything until it's they have something in the works. But this one, I don't know. This one kind of hits different. I almost feels like I want Square. I mean, I'm not saying I want Square Enix to give us a hard release date, not even a window. Just be like, hey guys, we're still working on it. Something's in the works, because I've already seen, and you guys might have seen also, if you're like into video games as much as a hobby. Like, if you're into video games as a hobby, like as much as I am, you might have heard like or seen the trailer for Final Fantasy 16. So again, I don't know how much that's ready to roll out, but we do know that's on the works. So I don't know how much of Square Enix their main team is focusing on 16 or the next episode of Final Fantasy, or they have a team for each game, or they're borrowing from members from each side and they have to go back and forth. I don't know. I can only speculate. But I mean, and honestly, I mean, I'd rather see more of 7 before I see 16. That's just me personally. Of course, that's just, you guys know. But I mean, I just kind of wish Square Enix would say, hey, Final Fantasy 7 is still in the works. Whether it's a DLC episode or another standalone sequel game, awesome. And again, guys, I mean, being a fan of Final Fantasy is like, how are they going to do the rest of the game? We know Midgar took up, that first game, but how are they going to do, Barrett at Coal City with Dyne? Are they going to introduce Dyne? Are they going to go to the Golden Saucer? Are we going to go see Rocket Town? I want to see Sid freaking verbally abuse Sheila. I take that back. I don't mean that. But I do want to see Sid though. But I want Sid like unfiltered, just like a mean hard ass like he was in Final Fantasy 7. Okay. I want to see how they're gonna do Cat Shi. Guys, it's Cat Shi. It's everybody probably thinks it's Kate Sith. But if you guys play Persona 5, there's little Puss in Boots, and he's a little Celtic deity, and his name's, and when you summon him, Catchy. I'm like, oh, I want to say it's Irish or Celtic or something like that, but I know it's pronounced a lot different than how it's spelled. So I want to see how Catchy is going to be introduced, and or the rest of the Turks and stuff. So it's just like, there's so many questions with Final Fantasy 7 that I just don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it and balance it. And if you guys have played the game, you kind of could tell that they are changing the story. So it's easy for them to, like, I guess, alter some things and introduce in different ways. And like I said, guys, I'm fine with changes, but sometimes it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. This is like, I'm maybe my gripe is the way that the story is being told. And like I said, it's not negative. It's just different. It's just different. Like, the way the original Final Fantasy, the pacing and the setting of just going to a new area, exploring along the way, and then getting part of the story. Nibelheim, when you wake up in the little ancient city, or wake up in the little jungle town after falling in the live stream. That part right there, guys. There's just so much. I mean, honestly, yeah, guys. I mean, so I think to wrap it up, I mean, I probably just did a lot more rambling, but yeah, I just noticed between JRPGs and Western RPGs, for sure, there's a difference, and it almost feels like on the Japanese side, it's almost looking a little bit more Western now. That's all I want to say. And that's what I feel like. I mean, of course, once I finish recording, I'm going to think of something else and be like, oh, shit, I didn't even think about this part or an example like this, Because honestly, I haven't played, what's those, Strangers in Paradise, the Final Fantasy Origin one. Some of the Square Enix stuff lately, I've just been like, I don't know. But Anyways, guys, I think I'm done ranting about on that subject for now. But if I think of anything else, I will come back and I'll bring it up, because like I said, even though this episode's kind of just focused on JRPGs, Western RPGs, it's not to say that I won't ever come back and revisit it, or once I play more of these, because like I said, I plan on going back on Final Fantasy VII Remaster. I'm playing that again, and then also want to play Mass Effect Legendary Edition. So I think that will, just playing those two games will give me a good refresher, and I think we could just save more chit chat on that part and just go more discussion and give you more like of an updated view, because like I am just going off the nostalgia of Mass Effect. I mean, I did play Andromeda when it came out, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Even for all the flaws in that game, I still enjoyed it. Yeah, the mouth animation was kind of off. Some of the mouth animations, the regular animations, some of the story wasn't as great as the OG Mass Effects, but it was still fun. You still got to play with your party members and your abilities. But anyways, guys, I think that's enough for this episode. I want to say thank you again for just hanging out. And guys, if you have any comments, questions, if you want to just give me your 2 cents about what's going on and what I just talked about, or anything on video game related, just feel free to just hit me up at the socials, at OS_Rick with a 1R1CK. Guys, if I could get RICK uniformed, I would have, but I can't. Apparently having one in there, no one else thought of that, so we'll figure it out, guys. But anyways, guys, yeah, hit me up. Thank you for hanging out. I really appreciate it. I was trying to keep it at 45 minutes, but once I start rolling, it's hard for me to stop. Anyways, guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a good day, good time, and I will see y'all next time. Peace out, guys. Thank you. Love you.